This episode's brought to you by Mack Weldon. Mack Weldon is better than whatever you're wearing right now. Mack Weldon believes in smart design, premium fabrics, and simple shopping. You know, we did it. It was easy. We just tried to get some underwear, went on that website, bam. Next thing you know, we got it, and it is premium. Ooh, I am liking it. It is soft on my body. All the products are naturally antimicrobial, which means they eliminate odor. I didn't know it. I had to look it up too. They want you to be comfortable, so if you don't like your first pair, you can keep it, and they will still refund you. No questions asked. Not only does Mack Weldon's underwear, socks, and shirts look good, they perform well too. It's good for working out, going to work, going on dates, you know, just everyday life, going about your thing. It's even good for podcasting. I know that because I'm wearing them right now. Go to MackWeldon.com and get 20% off using promo code KFGames.
Hey everybody, it's me, Greg, and guess what? I am up for Most Entertaining Online Personality at the South by Southwest Gaming Awards, and it would mean the world to me if you went and voted for me. Of course, every time we win one of these things, it's a win for Kinda Funny, and it's a win for you because we get to go there and be like, hey, people who've never heard of us, guess what? People like us, and everybody goes, who are you? And they go, maybe I want to be a best friend, or they're jerks, and they say, we'll stay away from everybody. So if you go to kindafunny.com, SXSW, and vote Greg Miller for Most Entertaining Online Personality, I would take it as a personal favor that I will never, ever be able to repay you for.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the first ever episode 56 of the Kinda Funny Gamescast. As always, I'm Tim Gettys, joined by the coolest dudes in video games, Colin Moriarty and Greg Miller.
Good to be here with you today. Hello.
And now, for the first time ever on this show, we have Mega Ran.
Thank you. Hello.
I'm really excited about this. This is going to be a good one. This one's going to be worth $1. I can feel it. If you believe that, well, you would already know that you went over to patreon.com/kindafunny. You gave us $1 to get this thing early, or you could have went to youtube.com/kindafunnygames and got it for free.
Patreon.com/kindafunnygames.
Did I mess up?
You
Damn
did.
it.
I'm just being clear.
Okay.
It's
All
been a
right.
long month of promoting the animated series link.
Right.
I understand.
Yeah.
It's hard to switch gears.
One day I'll
Mega
get that
Ran,
stuff.
that's it.
Anyway, this is a weekly show where we talk about video games and stuff that we like. We're going to start this one off right. I want to talk about you, Mega Ran.
Hey.
Who are you? What is your history and why are you here?
All right. Wow. So we're going to go from birth to like now.
To now, yeah.
All right. Well, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, West Philadelphia, born and raised. In front of the TV is where I spent most of my days. So basically just, you know, growing up a fan of video games for a long, long time and a fan of hip hop at the same time and just watching both of them rise around the same time and me just really wanting to get caught up in that you know, both of those cultures. And I started writing music, I guess as a teenager. And it took me maybe 10 years of writing music until I figured, let me try to inject some of those games that I love into the music. And I made this album called Mega Ran in 2007. And we talked about Mega Man a little bit on it. And then Capcom heard it and
Immediately shut you down.
And
They were like,
they-
under no circumstance.
they embarrassed me. No, they were okay with it. And they decided to let me keep making music. And they, you know, encouraged me to make more Mega Man tunes. And so I did that. Then I went to other, you know, franchises that I really loved, Final Fantasy, all kinds of stuff, River City Ransom, mostly retro things. So I think I've then fallen into a bit of a niche or subgenre called nerdcore, also another called chiptune. So I put those together, and what I call it is chip hop. It's a little bit of both, you know, chiptune, hip hop, chip hop. That's my thing. Yeah, so right now, let's see. I am in San Francisco on a tour with my good friend Richie Branson, game developer and amazing rapper. He and I work on projects together. We put out an album together called Ghouls and Ghosts this past Christmas. And yeah, we're just out promoting it, hanging out and rapping and meeting people and driving mostly. Mostly driving.
Well, yeah, so what does the tour look like then? Like,
What does it look like this current tour? I mean, it's been just, you know, into a city for a day, usually, you know, playing a show, getting to maybe eat some food and shake hands with people that are in the town. And then we play a great show and usually we have to go to the next city. Fortunately, the Bay Area shows are kind of close together and we get to kind of hang out in one general area. And so, yeah, we'll be in San Francisco, we'll be in San Jose, we'll be in Sacramento. And so, yeah, it's usually playing a show, eating something terrible late at night, and then heading back home and getting a little bit of rest, and then getting up, getting on the internet, handling all of our, you know, various clerical duties, and then getting back into a venue and doing it again.
Now, that's the thing. You're talking about these clerical duties and these emails you have to do. I would assume you have thousands of people who do these things for you. You're a big time rapper, travel. So for like a tour, how is that all on you? Are you negotiating spots and figuring out like where you're going point to point?
I mean,
how the hell do you do that?
You save money if you do it yourself. You don't have to pay anybody. So as long as I can do it at a pretty good high level, I think I've continued to do it. So I tour manage, I book the dates, I organize the rental vehicle and how we're going to get there, organize where we're going to sleep. And I can do it in my sleep now at this point.
Wow,
I've done it for 10 years now. So I don't know. But when it gets to a point where I just absolutely can't handle it, then I'll bring in a tour manager. I've done a couple of tours with managers and it's amazing. However, at the end, they're standing there with their hand out like, all right, I made that happen for you. Now compensate me. And it's like, I think I can do that. So I try it. And it usually works out well.
Now you said you've been doing it for 10 years, right? You've been out there doing all this stuff, shaking it. So what I think you glossed over that I love about your story, right, is that you were a teacher, right?
Oh yes, I didn't even say that. Yeah,
it wasn't like you're like, I've been making music now, I'll put video games in it. I'm a huge internet star.
Oh yeah. There was the teacher part is a huge path on the road to wherever I am now, and I taught for 6 years, mostly middle school, and I had a great time doing it. I started off as a substitute. And dealing with middle school kids who, are 12 going on 30. I think they know everything. I think it helped me a lot with my performances because you got to be able to improvise. You got to be able to change on the fly. And ultimately, standing on a stage and standing in front of 30 kids is the same because you have to make them believe in you and what you're doing. And if the kids don't believe in you, they see right through you and it's over. You lose them and you never get them back. So I was kind of a mean teacher though. It was.
See, I don't believe that for a goddamn second.
Everybody says that. No, I was mean. Oh man, I was mean. You have to be with 12-year-olds.
Yeah, that's why I was gonna drive there naturally because that's the thing. I remember when we first met and we immediately found that we're brothers in arms. We're friends. Like there's a connection here. God dang it! And you've been a big supporter of Kind of Funny, all those things. But you're always so soft spoken, so easy going, so down to help us out and do this. These kids would have wrecked you.
Yeah, they would have. You can't. You absolutely have to put on a different face. They say you don't smile until Christmas when you're a teacher. You don't smile. You don't tell a joke until you've had them for 3 months or so.
So did you feel like you were putting on an act every day?
Absolutely, absolutely. You don't smile. You're like, get in there, sit down, works on the board, do it. Don't bother me. And you have to do that every day until they get in the structure where they're like, oh my God, he might kill us, and once they think you might kill them, then you can tell a joke and they're like, should we laugh? and then, so I think you gotta build a level of trust and structure before you can, divert from it.
Have you, I'm curious, I actually meant to ask you this, I think several times ago that I saw you, like in your teaching career, since it was some time ago now, these kids are kind of coming up. I mean, they're adults now, a lot of them. Have you encountered any of them as fans of yours? Like, have you heard from any of them? Like, maybe you don't remember them, but like, I had you, and
I absolutely have. It's strange because you say that like they're adults, and I was in Salt Lake, and the guy who put the show together was like, I think I know one of your students, like one of your old students, moved from Phoenix to Salt Lake, and I know him, and I couldn't remember the name, and but I was like, that's very possible. Like these kids are grown now.
Yeah.
They could have moved to different places. They could have jobs, and I knew them when they were 12, 13, 14. So it's strange, but it's cool. Like I'll see comments pop up on YouTube and they're like, hey, Mr. J, good to see you're still at it. Like students of mine. And I'm like, wow, that's awesome. I went to the studio once and a former student of mine was in the studio, like making music. And I'm like, wow. And he's like, yeah, Mr. J, you showed me how to do this. And I was like, what? I'm officially old, like teenagers are growing up and becoming, adults and somehow being influenced by what I do, which is kind of cool and scary, but I love it though. It's great to see those kids doing okay.
So you're acting tough to these kids, but then you're also making the music. I mean, did there come a convergence point where they all discovered like, wait a second?
Yep, absolutely. Wait, Mr. Jarbo is Mega Ran. And they would come into school and be like, hey, Mega Ran, or something like that. And I'm like,
I have no idea what you're talking about.
What are you talking about? You got detention, But yeah, absolutely. They would find stuff. So then I eventually had to just insert it into the classroom as much as I could. I would show them videos of mine. I would then get into even running songs by them. Like, hey, I got this new song I'm working on. Here, just listen to it, and they enjoyed it. Or if they didn't, they're like, Mr. J, this is kind of weak, people need something to dance to. This isn't danceable. Like they'll give me good feedback. I mean, from the mouths of babes. I mean, they're going to be very honest, and that gives you a different perspective on your music that you don't necessarily think of. So I would run music by them. We would do freestyle Fridays where I would rap for them. If they all got a really good score on their test, I would do some raps for them. So I would have them all hold up their items that they had in their desk, and I'd go around the classroom just rapping about them, pencils, pens, whatever, and they enjoyed that. They had a blast. Or I would use their spelling words into the rhyme, and they loved it.
That's awesome.
That is so cool.
You'd be the coolest teacher.
So one of the things I was actually just talking to Nick about my best friend back home. Ramon is a bassist and like a studio musician and doing stuff, and he's finally playing with this guy next week on Seth Meyers or whatever, and like and is like finally he's stuck with it, and he like and things are happening for him now, and we're like real proud of him. I'm curious what that transition was from not really being able to make a living off of it to making a living off of it, because I played music since a very young age too, and I always tell Ramon, and you're really the similar person where I'm like, you guys are keeping the dream alive for all of us who grew up playing music and wanted to be rock stars or whatever, and like just we were good, but like you right place, right time, and all that kind of stuff. So what is it like to be able to quit that job and make a living, or be comfortable, be able to tour and do all these kinds of things? I'm not saying you're like fucking U2 or Muse out there, but
I'm saying he is like
I am.
U2.
You can say that. I am. No, honestly, it's scary as hell, but I think it just happened to, like you said, it's just a bunch of right things happening at the right time, and all the timing is just what helped it. And then it's very scary, but I think it was something that I felt like I had to do. Like I was pretty young still, didn't have kids or a wife at the time, so I figured I can take a chance and step out and try to make this happen, and I can always go back and be a teacher. So it was just a matter of finding, just a number of signs were in the air. Things would happen. I made this album Black Materia, and then Game Informer profiled it, and then I was playing at PAX and a lot of really bigger shows, and I thought, well, maybe I can do this, and I just decided to step out, and that was 5 years ago, and it's just been working out. But yeah, I mean, people say like, you're living the dream, and I think I am, and it's I don't take it for granted any second. Like I feel like I may need to go to Walmart, and filling out an application or something, but I don't know. But right now it's going well, knocking on wood, and it's been great. But it's all a matter of just taking those opportunities and taking those signs that because I think everybody gets it. Once in a while you'll get a moment, but you're like, oh, I'm afraid, I can't take this day off of work to go meet this record producer guy or whatever, and I think it's just taking those chances, and sometimes they work out.
So was Capcom coming to you kind of your first moment when you were like, okay, I can really do this? Because I remember when you first put up Grow Up, and I love that song. It's one of my favorite songs ever.
Wow.
And then I listened to that, and this was before the Mega Ran album even came out. And then you had another album before that.
I did, The Call.
The Call, yes.
And so it's much more of a traditional hip-hop album, no video games, things about that. But it was just a story of a guy who had come from a city and, had dreams of fulfilling his calling in life. That's what The Call was all about. And I didn't know what that call was, and then things started getting clearer after making that record. But yeah, I think it was IGN who was the first. It's probably IGN's fault that Capcom scared the hell out of me, because they posted it, and next thing you know, I had an email on MySpace the very same day, and they're like, so what are you doing here? And I'm like, oh boy. Naturally you think this is something that's going to ruin you, and but they were fortunately fans of what I was doing, and they thought it was well done, they thought it was tasteful, they thought it was appropriate, but I didn't think that was the big break, because they didn't offer me a job or anything like that. So it was more or less, we'll allow this to happen, and that was great, and it did a whole lot for me, and continues to, and they didn't have to do that. So that's definitely one of those first signs you see where you're like, maybe you're onto something, and now you have to, have the courage to just kind of keep pushing, trying something else, and until things stick.
So I remember with Capcom, they've been really good about stuff. Then you did Mega Ran 9 after that, and then after that you did the Marvel vs. Capcom 2,
on the vinyl hip hop thing they did
stuff. And that was awesome. But how has it been kind of balancing the random versus the Mega Ran stuff?
Oh, that's been tough. And I've had conversations about it. There's a new song on the new album called The Meeting where Mega Ran meets random, and we discuss what the guy who came from Philadelphia who makes hip hop songs about, life and growing up, and the guy who raps about in the voice of a video game character, and can they both coexist? And I think that they can, and I've finally discovered a happy medium where I can make songs like Infinite Lives on the new record, where the concept is video game related, but applying it to everyday life so that everyone can understand it, realize it. So even it took 10 years for me to realize that these guys can live together side by side and on the same record. Because what I would do is try to alternate, like, all right, here's a random album, here's a Mega Ran album, here's a random album, here's a Mega Ran album. And the Mega Ran albums would get so much more attention, probably because of the games that they were, sampling from. So I just tried to find a way where I could inject my own life story, my own, lessons and things like that into a track that may also, reflect those video games that I grew up playing.
So where did Black Materia fall then?
So Black Materia was like the second project after the first two Mega Man albums. So there was Mega Ran and Mega Ran 9. And then Black Materia was 2011. And that was the one that kind of took off for me. And I remember one day getting a phone call from a friend who said, "Hey, you're on the first page of Reddit." And back in 2011, I didn't even know what that meant. So I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "That means it's a big deal. People are talking about this." And I was like, "What, really?" And then I got a phone call from PlayStation Magazine that day and Game Informer. I did a bunch of big interviews, and then I had a big tour right after that. And then MC Chris asked me to join him on tour, and we did a 3-month tour of the entire U.S. And I think so. It was definitely the Black Materia album that kind of jumped it off, and I didn't realize. I knew Final Fantasy VII was special to me, but I didn't necessarily know it was, as special to everyone else.
Yeah, no, I love that album so much. Tell the people what that project is.
So Black Materia is me taking the Final Fantasy VII Nobuo Uematsu soundtrack and then remixing it, sampling it, playing additional chords over it, and retelling the story of Final Fantasy VII as if through my eyes of Cloud and from beginning to end. And it became a pretty epic thing. Like, it was just a really big project that we spent a lot of time on. But I listen to it now and I'm like, ugh, I kind of cringe because I didn't know as much about mixing, mastering, or things that I know now. And I'm like, I need another crack at that album, which is why, ding, announcement, we're going to be releasing a vinyl version of Black Materia later this year, which will be the songs remixed and remastered.
It's the reboot.
The reboot.
Final Fantasy VII reboot.
Yeah, it's the reboot. Something like that. No.
One of the things that I love about you, both with Random and Mega Ran, is kind of your adherence to something that you find more in like prog rock or space rock or something, which is like the idea of a concept album. And that's like, and you find that in hip hop, but it's definitely not as common as it is in some and a lot of rock genres.
Yeah.
Is that does that lend itself towards like the fact that you were really sampling Mega Man? I mean, that makes more sense at that time, but even with something like Black Materia, I mean, is that an easier way for you to write? Is that the way you want to like release your records typically? And are there like games that you're identifying in your mind that you would like to tackle from a thematic standpoint like that?
Oh, absolutely. This is something that I have more fun creating in that way. Going through a character, going through a stage, going through a full concept and fleshing it out through a whole record. So yeah, there's a lot of other franchises that have been on my radar for the
Mario
longest.
Golf.
Oh, fuck, if you do a Mario Golf.
I was thinking, Arkanoid, I don't know, but Mario Golf, wow. But yeah, BioShock is one I would do.
Oh yeah, love it.
Man, Mass Effect, Uncharted, games that I really, really dig from the current generation that I would think about it. But I feel like I'm kind of rooted in retro.
I was going to say like Castlevania, Ninja Gaiden. I would love to see you mess with some of these.
Ninja Gaiden would be cool too. And it has great music. So there are some retro franchises, but a lot of my friends wind up doing them. There's a Zelda album by Doc Ock he did for Ocarina, which is amazing. And, I would have done something like that. Or, there's a bunch of other ones. Chrono Trigger has been done. Richie Branson has done that. Matter of fact, where's Richie? Is he in there? Richie, come here for a sec.
Okay. It's like getting into a space shuttle here.
He's climbing all around. Richie, say what's up to the people.
Yo.
What's good? Oh, yeah. It's Richie Branson in the building on tour with Mega Ran. I make video games and I rap, so it's kind of an interesting combination.
What games do you make?
I program in Unity. I'm sort of good at. I'm gonna get on my knees. If
That's
that's
fine.
okay.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm a
You're praying.
programmer.
You're praying at the altar.
Yeah, I'm
Smile-
praying to the.
Cheat to the camera.
Okay.
You can always do this. You can move the mic with you. Do wherever you want. Yeah.
Yeah, so I program in Unity 3D, C# and JavaScript, and started making video games after I figured rapping about them was sort of like I wanted to do a little bit more, so I started making the games. And so I just put out a hilarious, it's a short little Flappy Bird type game, but I put out a game making fun of Meek Mill and Drake's beef.
I love this.
And it's called,
I am so all about this.
Yeah.
Is it? Where can I get this
It's
right
at
now?
meekymill.com. I haven't dropped it on mobile, so you have to play it from like a laptop or
Okay,
a desktop.
I'm gonna email myself then.
Desktop. But yeah, it's called Meeky Mill. It's been on a lot of hip hop and gaming blogs and whatnot, and you guys should play it because it's so hard. I made the game and I haven't beat it, and the objective is simple. You just have to make $1 million without catching L's from Drake and 50 Cent. It's easy. You
So
know?
no one can win because that's impossible.
It's hard,
for Meek Mill.
yeah. I made it and I'm like, okay, I can beat this. And I got 300 and I rage quit. So if you look at all the Let's Play videos on it, like people are just rage quitting. I've seen a guy throw his headphones and it's just like, wow. It almost feels good. Like I birthed this rage,
Yeah, you are ruining people's time. Their
Yeah.
free time you're ruining.
So one guy was like, yo, whoever made this is a dirt bag. I'll
Put it on
take
the
that.
box.
Yeah. But it's just such a pleasure. Ran is like one of my main influences on the music side. And I remember when I first reached out to him to collab, I just started really getting into the nerdcore scene. I originally was a professional music producer working for like Sony and Def Jam. And as I started to want to do the artistry myself, I sort of realized that I didn't want to go down that path because it just didn't feel natural. So they tried to put me in this sort of pop rap flow rider type thing. And I was doing that, but it just felt like I felt so dirty. Like I'd take 3 showers a day. And then I was like, you know what? Let me rap about the stuff I like. So I was on the toilet one day playing, I was taking a little break from gaming and I heard this awesome theme music from Star Wars, The Old Republic, the MMO. And I heard it and I was like, you know what? I got to sample that and make a beat out of it. And then my first mixtape was born. It was called The Cold Republic. And,
Damn.
from there, yeah.
That's awesome.
So from there, I was like, whoa, there's people who do this really well. And Mega Ran was like the guy. So I hit him a nervous email like, hey, can I maybe send you a beat or something? And the rest was history from there.
That's awesome. Where can people find your music?
RichieBranson.com or OtakuGang.com. That's my little thing I'm starting now. And play Meeky Mill, MeekyMill.com. It's out there, and it's so terribly. Look, I didn't do any QA. I spent the week working on it. So, it may be a little buggy, but it's cool. It's fun.
I got 350,000 on it today, so I'm actually better than the creator.
Yeah. I looked at him like, yo, how did you get 350,000 coins, dude? Like,
It's so hard, but I did it.
yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
So that's cool, man. But
Awesome.
it's just good to be here.
Yeah. Definitely go check him out.
Not a problem. Meeky Mill, Richie, Meeky Mill.
Kevin, did you put all those links on screen?
Go ahead and write it down in your
Write it
notes.
down. I want all those links on screen, Kevin. All right, fine.
Mega Ran.
Yeah.
We got some questions for the audience here.
All right.
Real quick, too,
Bring 'em
I want to call out to our audience that you guys are filming a tour documentary. And your cameraman's been stuck in the door. You are allowed to cross in front of our camera.
Oh, feel
our
free to
audience,
cross
over. Whatever you
don't
need
knock
to do.
down the camera. There you go. But you
There
can
we
walk
go.
in front of us and get your shots, and don't worry about it. These are all best friends.
Get in the
No,
shot.
you're good.
It don't
Yeah,
matter.
there you go. Oh my God, Inception.
We have broken the wall.
Bob Harold wants to know, what have you been playing recently?
Witcher 3 all day long. Outside of Meeky Mill to this morning, all day long. But Witcher 3 is amazing. I'm a little late to the party. I just got a PS4, and that was the first game I bought for it. So I love it. So great.
How far into it are you?
I'm at like the Bloody Baron, so I'm not far at all.
wow, okay.
But it's really good. But, yeah, kind of busy touring.
No, I don't mean like that. I mean,
Planning
oh
stuff.
wow, like that. It's rare that I meet somebody who's
Wow,
super into
casual
Witcher.
gamer.
Yeah.
Wow, ever play a
right,
game?
Cash.
Go back to meekymills.com. No, but it's like I love that quest. You know what I mean? It's like creepy, and it just gets worse and worse the more you play it.
Oh man, it's so good. So yeah, that and Rocket League all day.
Ah.
Tyler Truman wants to know, Mega Man or Mega Man X?
Mega Man, sorry. I know that everyone everywhere except Colin. Everywhere, everyone is like, Mega Man X is better. Not to me. I'm
insane.
sorry.
They're
crazy.
insane.
All the power ups. I mean, come on. If you put those power ups in original Mega Man, the game would be so easy. Come on, if you could dash and jump off walls, the game would be simple. So classic Mega Man.
Yeah, X, X2, X3, X4, good games, great games. But they're not Mega Man 3 or
They're
Mega
not
Man
the
2
classics,
or Mega
I'm
Man
sorry.
6 or Mega Man 9. Get the fuck out.
Victor13
You feel me.
wants to know, are you working on any voiceover gigs currently?
Kinda, but I can't talk about them.
That's the best type of answer.
Sorry.
Ghetto Nerd Society wants to know, have you ever thought about getting into game development?
Perfect name, by the way. I love it. I haven't thought about it, but riding with Richie is totally making me want to get into it. So, in between the many hats I wear, yeah, I would love to. I would absolutely love to. That's something that it's crazy because we were talking about it. It's something that looks so foreign, when you immediately look at how to create a game and you're like, I could never learn that. But just give it a little bit of time and effort. I think you can make things that would surprise you. So yeah, I think being inspired by Richie and watching, the things he's done has made me wish, like, man, I wish I'd done that. But it's not too late.
Yeah.
Final question. Michael Gulliver wants to know, how or what inspires you to create the music that you make? And what is your process?
Is that a who or what inspires me, or how or what?
It says who or what.
Okay. All
But it
right.
can be how. It can be a how.
It could be how. Gosh, it's going to sound really stupid and corny, but life inspires me, honestly. Like just meeting new people, hearing about their stories, where they're from, what inspires them, what's going on in the world, the news, mostly a lot of comic books and games, but that would be the obvious answer. But honestly, it's just life, like meeting new people and just from different walks of life and their journey and experiencing that and just through talking to people. And so I think it's really my job because it enables me to meet so many different people. And I think that's what inspires me to keep creating cool stuff. What was the rest of that question? Was there more to that?
Oh, that was it?
Michael-
Well, what's your process? Was the second one.
Oh, the process of like making a song is pretty annoying to most people. It would be me playing a beat 75 times, probably over and over again until words come to me. And but what I did recently, I did a Shovel Knight rap for our Patreon, patreon.com/bitsandrhymes, by the way. And for the Shovel Knight rap, what I did was I wrote out the entire story of Shovel Knight the best that I knew. And then I circled rhyming words. And then I moved words around. This is a process that I've never done before when it came to writing a song. But I took the beginning, middle, and end, took the rhyming words that I liked, circled them, and then I worked on the song from there. And I had never done anything like that. So it's a fun way to tell a story. And that normally, though, it's just playing a beat constantly. I make sure to revise. That's a huge thing, is to never put out your first draft because it's usually crap. And I learned that from college, mostly from writing classes. But I've put out a lot of crap. And so yeah, it's just mainly just I think giving it the time for the second and third drafts and letting the good stuff kind of shine in those. That's
great.
really that's the process.
There you go. Topic 2 of the day, video game music. What are your favorite video game soundtracks? This is open to everybody, but I have a feeling that you're going to have some good answers here.
Well, we're just talking about Mega Man X, and I don't want to totally dump on it because I think the soundtrack is amazing. So X1, I love the soundtrack. Of course, the Mega Man games, 2 and 3 are great. 9 is amazing. Castlevania is great too. Current stuff, I was really enjoying the Shovel Knight, of course. Pretty much everything Vert does is amazing and blows me away. The Danny B stuff on Super Meat Boy, Necro Dancer is really, really great. So yeah, those are probably my favorites right now. A lot of the newer, I don't know, it seems like the more advanced the game is, the less I pay attention to the music. It's like I expect it to be great, so it's there, just background music, and it's
That's the thing right now with modern games, like, you know what I mean? Like when Uncharted or Assassin's Creed or somebody puts out these things and you hear it, like, all right, this was great, but I don't, when I'm playing the game, it doesn't stand out. You know what I
you
mean?
don't
It isn't
remember
like when I was playing Super Mario World before Pinkerton came out. Because once Pinkerton came out, I listened to that on repeat playing Super Mario World. But before that, well, you know what I mean? When you knew every beat of that song, and it was so much part of the game, right?
See, I have a totally different experience with that, where I still notice the music in games. Like in current games, like Final Fantasies, they're still just as stand out to me, and the moments are still like I identify them when I think about a certain sequence in a game. I hear the music in my head. Uncharted, definitely the same way.
Well,
like,
the Vuvuzuela or whatever. And the didgeridoo of Uncharted.
but yeah, it's just like all the didgeridoo. I feel like it's easy to say that old game music's better than new game music, and I love old game music.
Yeah,
probably more than new game music, but I don't think the new game music is like forgettable or.
It's not that it's forgettable. I think it's just easy to overshadow because there's so much. Like, here's the thing. When I think of like current games, right, that have a soundtrack that sticks with me, or that I'm playing and I'm like, fuck, this is great, right? Immediately what comes to mind is Gone Home and Firewatch. And I think both of those games are because it's slower. I'm walking, I'm taking, the whole thing is observing your entire environment. Whereas like, it's like in Metal Gear, right? Like even recently, like I can, when they use like, Here's to You or whatever in Ground Zeroes, right? Like that's an awesome moment and sticks with me, but it's because like the control's taken away and it's like I'm watching a movie cinematic thing.
I mean, I think even MGS5 is a good example, because Metal Gear, to me, the music always has been kind of a big deal, and like it is tied to sequences and stuff. And Metal Gear Solid 5, because it's more open, it has less of those moments. But when it does happen, every time it's like and that like when that Peace Walker theme kind of comes back, and like those moments are always, it's great, and I'm like, oh, game music's still like very, very much a thing. Halo, I mean, come on, Halo is like some of the most iconic game music ever, and I think that you got to give credit to the retro stuff, like things like DuckTales and Mega Man and like all the old Capcom stuff. Like they got so creative with the use of the chip tunes and all that stuff that like
I mean, that's the interesting thing to me, is that, and that's why I love talking to you, because the Mega Man 3, my favorite game of all time. I mean, all of our audience knows that, but there's something about the Mega Man music, in especially 2, 3, and then parts of 4, parts of 5, parts of 6, and then 9. I think really killed it, and 10 was pretty good too. But that's so much better than everything else around it. Like it's Castlevania's awesome. Ninja Gaiden's got great music. A lot of the classic Capcom games have great music. There's great music all over the NES, but Mega Man is so much better than everything else.
I wouldn't say that.
I think that's like I
could agree with you.
Yeah,
but
I just think there's just something about like the way those songs, by the time they get to 6, I always think of Flame Man's song in Mega Man 6. Like that song is insanely complicated for the NES. Like I don't even know how they do that with the chipset in the NES. And I guess I'm kind of wondering with you, like, how do you identify? For instance, you did Wily, which is my favorite song of yours. That's Mega Man 2 Wily Stage 1 and Stage 2. But how do you identify like what song? Because they're all really great. So it's like you're going through a game, and did you hear at that point, like, I can slow this down, I can put a beat behind this? And
it's usually the ones that are stuck in my head forever, And I remember making the first Mega Man album in 2007 and asking my producer, like, what do you think of this? And it was the Bomb Man theme. And he's like, no. And he didn't think I could do anything with it. And so I ignored it, and I just didn't do it. But then later when we did the anniversary edition, I said, I'm going to Bomb Man. I'm going to make this work. So I think it's more about that. Most of that music is so good that I think you can make it work. And if you're skilled enough at, the production style of sampling, chopping, splicing, slowing down, you can almost make anything awesome. You can make it work. If you got a great group of colors to choose from, you can only help but to make something that's going to be really, really good, I think. So I don't know. It's usually I pick my favorites. I'm like, nope, we got to do Bubble Man. Like, I love that, so I like, you got to do this, so tracks that I really love were the ones that I went to first. Wily was the opposite, because if you've ever been to a video game music festival or heard any video game music covers, everyone does Wily.
Everyone. It's that Ice Cap Zone from Sonic 3.
Yeah, pretty much. Or Sonic 2 Chemical Plant, which I love. And it's like everyone does it. So you can't go anywhere without hearing it. And when I went to my first MagFest or PAX, everyone on the, on the schedule played the same song. And I'm like, for that reason, I'll never do it. And there was someone saying, well, do you like the Wily theme? I was like, yes, I love it. Like, well, then why should you let that stop it? And that was the conversation that I needed to hear. It's like, if you like it and you love it and you can't, get it out of your head, then you should work with it, not worrying about what someone else has done. You're going to have your unique spin on it. And a lot of people tell me it's their favorite song that I've done in the Mega Man universe.
Because you told a story in it as well that
It was a
Capcom
story.
doesn't even tell. I still Wily stage 1/2 in Mega Man 3 I think is awesome.
Oh, it's great.
And Wily in Mega Man 10 stage 1 and
Yeah.
stage 2 is super emotional and weird. Like there's a weird dynamic in those songs that they're not all like same way I feel about like Brightman's theme in Mega Man 4. Like I'm like, there's a weird emotion in this song where I'm like, this is kind of weird. I don't know if they even meant it like this.
Well, what's cool, Mega Man does something that I think a couple other franchises, specifically old ones, do, where there is, you immediately can identify that it's Mega Man, and even when they do kind of shift the gears and like make it more emotional or slower or whatever, it still feels like Mega Man. And it's weird because it's not like they're using instruments, it's just using the chipset stuff, but Mega Man has that, Sonic has it. That's the one thing that like no one can take away from the 2D Sonic games is their soundtracks are amazing, and you hear it and you're instantly like, this is Sonic. You can hear a new version of those songs. You're like, that's a Sonic song. Pokemon's the same way with the with battle themes. Like all the battle themes sound very similar, but that's just because they nailed the aesthetic of this is a random encounter and the whatever.
Yeah.
It's always going to sound similar. And Mario, you can hear the new Mario overworld and underworld themes, and that it's Mario overworld or underworld. You know that this is the underwater song. You know that this is the castle song. And it's like there's an artistry to that that's like blows my mind. And I think Mega Man is one of the first games to ever really, really get into that and nail that, where they can just kind of like copy and paste. And I don't mean that in a bad way, just like the games. It's the same thing over and over, but they kind of can really create. Mega Man is kind of like the badass guitar solos of NES games, where every single soundtrack, there's so many layers to it, so many things going on. Whereas Mario was always just like, there's the main melody, there's a rhythm, and there's bass, and that's it. Whereas Mega Man was like all over the fucking place. And Sonic was the same way.
Yeah.
And then you get into things like Final Fantasy, and that's when shit gets real. Nobuo Uematsu is insane, and like the older games, they sound just as epic and orchestral as the orchestral versions in later games.
4 and 6, I think, are like great examples of primitive gaming music, more primitive, less primitive than NES, but more primitive than what we got with disc-based games like Final Fantasy 7, and just more powerful hardware. Like the way. In Final Fantasy 4, when the Red Wings are flying in the beginning or whatever, and it's like ding, 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 ding. It's iconic. Like, and like you don't need it to sound any better than it sounded there.
Yeah.
So like when they remix them and they play them orchestrally and they do them live and stuff like that, I'm like, that's great, but like actually the original version is actually probably better than this.
I don't agree. I think that the composition is so good that whether it is this primitive version or it's a full fucking 60-piece orchestra, I think that the sound's still there, and I don't think that it's better. I just think that it's a testament to the quality of the composition of how good it is.
Sure, but I also think that like in my mind it fits the aesthetic. Like when they remade Final Fantasy 4 for DS, I was like, I played it and I liked it because I liked it was like way harder than the original one. It was as hard as it was supposed to be. But like that chibi style and stuff like that, I was like, this kind of sucks. Like this doesn't fit the way. Porum and Palom committing suicide to save the rest of the party in the game, or so you think, with their sprites or whatever, is like way more resonant with the chiptune and the 16-bit sprite than it was with these chibi, weird-looking, shitty DS graphics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like even though the music was of a higher quality, like I felt like it
Yeah,
lost
but even
its
the
emotional
DS
resonance.
quality is not what we're talking about.
No.
Like I'm talking like when you get to like PS3, PS4 quality stuff, like that's when it's really like on another level. Like Final Fantasy 15 is gonna be fucking awesome because like the music for 13 even had it where the music was at that level where there wasn't orchestral versions, it was orchestral music. Final Fantasy 10 kind of did it, but then it was still this like weird MIDI awkward. Like Final Fantasy 7 through 10 was the awkward stage of this isn't actual orchestra music. It's like electric
It's still
MIDI
synth- it's still
versions.
synthesizers, yeah. But this might have been more appropriate for the first topic, but I think it's good here because I have a question for you about how do you feel? I mean, games have always been in some way in hip hop. I mean, Biggie was rapping about video games, but it was just like not to the level that you do.
No, it was a glancing thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
But like they were always there. There was always, you know, I've been listening to hip hop for a really long time too, and like I always felt like the communities were somewhat kind of intertwined in some way. And but you know, one of my favorite rappers now is the last few years is Currency, and I found him because he rapped about Mega Man 3 in one of his songs, and someone told me about that. And it wasn't like a joke, like it was a joke, but it was like straight up like just part of his rap about how he was stealing someone's girlfriend and bringing her to their house, and they were going to smoke weed and play Mega Man 3 together. Like that was like what the whole verse was about.
That is amazing.
And I was like, all right, that's awesome. But then I was listening to his newest record, and I didn't even notice this. Tim had pointed out to me that on his song No Squares, like that it's a God of War 3 sample, like the song. And how do you feel about, you know, having your niche where it's dedicated to this? How do you feel about some of the bleed over that seems to be more becoming more predominant, not predominant, but more noticeable in mainstream hip hop?
I think it's cool. You know, me and Richie have had conversations about it, and we in the beginning would get a little angry, like, oh, they're coming in on our stuff, they're moving in, you know. And I remember there was a big Wiz Khalifa thing where he sampled Chrono Trigger, and like it was a huge thing, and people were like, whoa, this is an amazing track, look at hip hop and video games working together. And we're like, wait, we've been doing this, you know, for a long time. And yeah, I think it's cool, you know, but it wasn't cool when I started, you know. And I feel like it was something that, you know, like you said, there've always been that occasional glancing side mention, like, hey, I shoot you like Mega Man or something, some weird metaphorical use. But I think that just taking it to the next level has been helpful. But at the same time, I don't know, it's kind of gotten me stuck into a place where people expect that from me all the time, which is fine, I guess. It's good to be known for something than nothing. But at the same time, I look at the bigger guys that do it. I think it's awesome. I think it's great when, you know, Logic released an album that was hosted by Steve Bloom, you know, where he's got the voice of Spike Spiegel on his record, you know, on a major hip hop release. And I thought that was awesome. So things like that, I think slowly you'll see a little more and more crossover of it. And I think that it can only be a good thing. I think we work hard to legitimize what we're doing, basically, because people are like, okay, he's rapping about Mega Man, but wait. It's actually good, you know? Like, so that's usually how every headline goes with my music. It's like, wait, don't close that window yet.
Yeah.
It's really good though, you know? And it's like having to constantly try to legitimize it, you know? And I think that at some point, you know, if everyone sticks with it and continues to raise the quality level, and I think that people will take it as a serious thing and be like, wow, this could become a legit subgenre, you know. So I think it's cool, you know, when I see major label guys or like Currency's really good at it, and he's into all the fandoms that I'm into. He does wrestling tracks, he does, you know, the video game mentions, you know. So I think it's okay, and you'll see more and more of it with, you know, with artists getting younger and younger. They're all a part of the same generation. I mean, there are millions of people who play video games. Some of them have to be, you know, entertainers and musicians and things, you know, they almost have to be. So yeah, I think it's awesome, you know. But I did a lot of research on it when I did a couple panels at PAX about video games and hip hop, and just noticing that the time period is almost identical. Late 70s, you know, first video game, late 70s, first hip hop, both dismissed as fads, you know, as things that are going to just go away really soon. Both multi-million or billion-dollar industries at this point. So I think that with them both happening at the same time, it's only right, you know, only makes sense that they'll cross over a little bit here and there, you know. Yeah. I just dive all the way in, you know. There's no reason to
let the world catch up to you, Meg. Right?
Yeah, there's no reason to just tip your foot in there when you know, if it was a big part of your upbringing, you know. Just we all played Tecmo Bowl or Zelda or Metroid or things like that. So you know, and I'm glad that, you know, like I said with the Final Fantasy stuff, I didn't think that everyone felt as special about this as I did, but you know, it's a cool thing that they did.
Yeah, I think there's a cool, you know, reverse thing that happens too, where, yeah, we all played Tecmo Bowl, we all played Zelda, so when you hear these things, it resonates with us. But for me, like, there's been times where I've heard samples from songs that I know are from video games. I'm like, I don't know what this is, but then I fall in love with the music, and I'm like, I want to go back and play it. I think a good example of that is Eminem's Hellbound that came out a long time ago, where it samples Soul Calibur. Yeah. And I didn't know what that was from, but I was like, this beat is epic.
Great.
This is awesome. Like, I know this is a video game because they're saying round one, they're doing all that stuff. And I remember looking into it, and that's why I played Soul Calibur. I'm like, I fucking love this. And then the same thing, like, I never played the Mega Man games till I heard Grow Up. I'm like, this song is awesome. I need to go back and get on this stuff. And then I started playing them. And it's just, I also grew up listening to hip hop, loving it, and loving video games. So I remember, I've told the story before, but like for me, going on the GameFAQs, rapping hip hop boards, like I was just constantly, anytime there was a thread that was like hip hop samples or video game samples in hip hop, like I would always check it out and see like who was doing stuff. And it's awesome to see that like it was such a niche thing, but then there would always be guys like Eminem like randomly doing it, you know?
What do you think of, I mean, you last time we saw you, I think, or maybe 2 times ago, you were with Danimal, who does more rock. What do you think about kind of the interpretation, like the rock interpretations of, gaming music as well? Because I remember being, in high school in the late 90s listening to Neskimos and the mini bosses and stuff like that. So, and so how do you feel about that? And like, is there any interest in you? Because I just because you rap, doesn't mean you can sing, or sing just doesn't mean you can rap, whatever. But is there any interest in like sitting down with a band and like kind of putting real music? I'm not saying necessarily rap rock, which would be awesome because I love rap rock, but something like that that's not sampled electronically, but something that's sampled actually with a real band.
Yeah, absolutely. We when I first started off, the first thing I did was Google to see if anyone had done anything like what I was doing. And I couldn't find it, but the things that I did find were the mini bosses, the Neskimos, the Advantage, and the Megas. And so I contacted the Megas, and we did one song with them using the Metal Man theme where they played. They had that live. I'm just a big fan of the 8-bit chipset stuff. Like, that's just me. But I'm working with some bands now, actually. There's a band named Psycho Stick who did a really great Mega Man song. I don't know if you heard it, but you would love it. I'm going to send it to you.
Okay.
So I'm working on remixing that track. And it's amazing. So it's a combination because they're playing all the stuff with, guitars, and then they're adding in Mega Man sound effects to tell about what's happening at the particular time. So I think that's the evolution of what I'm doing, is to take the live instrumentation plus occasional sound effects of it, so you get old meets new. And I think that's the leveling up of I guess nerd music at this point.
Before we move on to the next topic, this again goes kind of back to the first one, but what's your favorite songs to do live?
I love Wally. Wally is one. It's so weird because as you asked about the Mega Man versus Random thing, and when I go into a traditional hip hop show, I'm usually afraid of doing Mega Man stuff. I'm like, they're not going to know that. But I'll put on Wildland and people like, I know that, and people will, they'll get into it. And so that's always like an icebreaker for me. Dream Master is another one that I love to play live. Infinite Lives on the new record, which samples the RoboCop Game Boy and Commodore Game Over theme, which is epic music. It's so sad. It's way too advanced for RoboCop. But it's stuck in my head since the 90s. And, it was something that I definitely wanted to work with for a long time. So... those are my favorite tracks to do because I think that they can transcend, the occasional gamer, the hardcore gamer, and the guy who just never even played games, just can enjoy it. So I think those are the 3 people I'm trying to reach with the music. So I think it's the combination of lyrics, musicianship, and performance that can bring those people together. And I think those 3 songs are the ones where I feel like I kind of nailed it. There are others, but those are my favorites.
That's awesome. Topic 3. Final Fantasy 15.
Now, I've been saying for years I can't wait for this game. I'm super stoked. I've been a big...
So before we even get into it, let's talk about this for the first time on Gamescast. Me and Greg are hosting Final Fantasy Uncovered, Final Fantasy 15 Uncovered.
Right.
March 30th, which is an event down in LA at the Shrine Theater.
Yep.
Don't know how people can get tickets yet.
You go to finalfantasy.com/
finalfantasy15.com
with the Roman numerals.
XV.com.
/ uncovered.
Thanks, Colin. You know the shit.
I just
You're a
remember.
PR manager.
I remember. Yeah, I'm your PR manager now.
Thank you.
I just remember from the image that we
15% he takes.
Yeah, and you can go. There's going to be 3,000 people there. Hopefully, I see a lot of you there. It's going to be a lot of fun. Me and Greg are hosting their live stream that's going to announce the release date to Final Fantasy 15. I'm very damn excited about this. This is like unreal to me. It's like a freaking dream. So
September 24th. 2019.
2019. That's your guess?
Yeah.
That is a Tuesday. I'm being told that is a Tuesday.
So, I mean, great. How do you feel about being part of this?
I'm excited, and it's one of those things that we've talked about this before, right? But like when it was when this was getting announced, when it was going to finally be announced on Sunday, Saturday at 9 p.m. I had Reddit and Gaff open, and I was ready because I knew as soon as we got announced, the first comments would be, I thought they'd be a lot meaner. Everybody was super nice, and there was a lot of people I love kind of funny. Tim makes sense. Why is Greg there? And the first comment I saw on Reddit that did that, I tackled it. It was like, hey, that's exactly what I asked Square Enix when they came to us and asked us to host. And they had a good response, which was, you remember, I originally tried to, I was like, that's great for Tim, but that doesn't seem like a Greg thing at all. Like, because if you're not caught up, like, I've tried to get into Final Fantasies and they just haven't worked for me. I totally I understand its importance in video games. I've been around long enough to do all that. You know what I mean? I respect it as a franchise, but it's never clicked for me. And so I told them that, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm the right guy for this. And they're like, no, you're the exact right guy. Like, what we think we have with Final Fantasy 15 is a game that will appeal to the Tims of the world, the people who love Final Fantasies, but also the people like you that are interested. Like, I've been interested when you guys talk about the demos or whatever, right? I'm like, maybe I'll give it a shot. I usually give most of the Final Fantasies a shot. They're like, this is the one we think will actually get people like Tim and people like you that are noobs and don't know anything. I'm like, okay, that's a good way to sell it. Not to mention that it's hosting. It's not even interviewing for the most part, I think.
Yeah,
we're coming
just
out, we're
hosting
introducing this segment, that segment, here's this thing, let's talk.
I'm really excited.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
no.
going to be a lot of fun.
But I'm excited. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
You're excited as a fan. I'm excited as an event. I'm excited, as always, for people's excitement about video games. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's going to be awesome in front of 3,000 people, let alone with backstage all these people who are making this game for this audience. You know what I mean? To be part of that party, it's going to be rad.
Yeah, it's going to be super awesome. I'm very excited about the game. It's funny that you say it's for the yous, it's for the me's. The one person I think it's not for is the Collins. Like, you look at this
for
and it's
Colin
like,
anymore.
no, that's true. That's true. But it's like, so recently at last week to announce the announcement event that will announce things.
Square Enix.
Classic Square. They had during their active time report, which is one of their, I think, monthly things that they've been doing in January in Japan. For the January version, they released, it was a long like gameplay demo where they showed a bunch of stuff, talked about a bunch of things, and they showed the Niflheim base battle footage. Did any of you guys see this?
I haven't.
I watched it. I was watching along with it, yeah.
Okay, cool. So it showed a lot of gameplay, more gameplay than we've seen since kind of the demo that came out back in March, I think it was last year. And we've seen a lot of advancements. The interface is totally different, and it's way more action oriented. And thank you. And the game looks like Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. Yeah. And I'm like watching it. I'm like, all right, great. This is Greg's Final Fantasy, and this is not Colin's Final Fantasy. But to me, I'm like,
It didn't feel like it when I played it.
but like, I'm down with this, and this new version looks a lot faster than the demo. One of my biggest issues with what was it called, Duske?
Duske,
something like that.
episode Duske or something like that.
My biggest issue with it was that it wanted to be fast, but it wasn't. Like, it wanted to be Kingdom Hearts, but it wasn't. It reminded me of PlayStation Battle Royale, where it wanted to be Smash Bros, but it wasn't. And because that one little thing just didn't click right with me. Same thing here, where it's like, this looks like it should play like Kingdom Hearts. It sounds like Kingdom Hearts, has the same composer. She's fucking amazing, Yoko Shimura. And it just isn't, though. It's not quite fast enough. And they look like they've sped it up. They've locked it down where all the stuff that I've been excited for Final Fantasy 15, even since it was Versus 13, is finally starting to make its way back into it. When we first saw that trailer a million years ago, and you see the character like Noctis teleporting around and like warping and just freaking stabbing people with the swords flying around him, I'm like, yes, I fucking want this game now. And I'm finally starting to see that in this gameplay footage where the swords are around him, and like the new interface has the 4 different swords mapped to the D-pad, so you can kind of mid-battle switch using the D-pad, which sword you're using. One's more of like a dragoon type thing, so you can like jump up and do like the, screw dive type thing. There's more of like a buster sword, where it's just like your normal sword, and then one's a bigger one. Like, there's a whole bunch of different variants you can do. And it got me excited. It was the first time I've seen Final Fantasy 15 anything in a while that I was like, I got that same feeling that I've got back in the day when Versus 13 was first announced. Because since then,
20
it's
years
like,
ago.
Yeah, 20 years ago. When we see them like him, baby Noctis hugging his dad in trailers and stuff, I'm like, all right, whatever. And road trips and like,
I remember
all right,
that.
whatever.
And that was the thing. I had breakfast with Alexa today. Alexa from GameSpot. And she's so ready for it. It's such a huge Final Fantasy, unabashed fan. And I remember when she was tweeting about that trailer, and she's like, I'm in tears. And I was watching, I'm like, cool.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a pretty trailer.
And my thing, I want this clear. Like, I am a huge fan of Final Fantasy. I'm not saying I'm the biggest fan. I'm not the most hardcore by any stretch of the imagination. I haven't played all of them. I haven't beat all of them. But I've enjoyed the ones that I have, put time into. It's very much, and it is definitely part of my life, and it's part of my video game heritage. And looking at this, I'm like, this is the Final Fantasy I want. I hope that it's good. If it's good, because I don't necessarily need what Colin's looking for, like more turn-based and more, classic and fantasy stuff. I like that this looks more kind of cyberpunky, like
Metal
shiny.
Gear Solid-y.
It's Metal Gear Solid-y, right? So this whole gameplay was a stealth mission, which is there's the Metal Gear stuff. But it wasn't just a stealth mission, it was a mission to blow up the base. So I'm like, all right, so it's Metal Gear Solid 5. Exactly.
Yeah.
And
You got to put the explosive on the tanker, and then you have to go up and turn off the power as well.
Well,
then
so you go in, and there's these Magitech like warrior things.
Shout
which
out.
Just exactly look like Metal Gear Solid 5. like or Metal Gear Solid 4, like geckos and shit.
Sure.
And,
The Magitech Walkers are from Final Fantasy 6.
6. No, exactly. Yeah. But I'm saying like they now, like those little
You can
sprites
see them
are
go
now
there.
these like giant like next gen things, and
Biped.
seeing that's cool though. There's
I like
so,
that they're bringing Magitech
There's
back.
so many little shout outs like that I'm like, this is for Final Fantasy people. There is all those like little things, but to see the character kind of like sneaking around, avoiding the light, and then warp killing, which is the fucking coolest thing. You just target these motherfuckers and warp to them, one hit kill, warp to the other guy, and the demo was really well paced in showing off how it all works and how it starts off. He warp kills and does one person, and then he walks a little bit more, and then warp, and just immediately like kills 3, and it's like, oh shit, that's super cool. And you have your teammates kind of like walking around with you. And then there's a limit bar that like fills up, and when it's filled, when you're in a huge battle, you can kind of do these team attacks with your party members. And it's classic stuff, and it looks, again, really like Kingdom Hearts in a good way, but less floaty and less
Keybladey.
less keybladey, but more cool, more badass, and more like the fight scenes in Advent Children, which that's awesome to me. I think that's really cool, and it doesn't look like it gets old, and that's something that I worried about in the demo. It did. It very quickly was like, all right, I'm just doing the same animations over and over and over and over. This looked like it was a little bit more fluid, and how you attack each person and how you go about each different thing changes up, and that seems cool. But the biggest addition was this is the first time we've seen magic, and it's now set so that when you can use your magic, it goes to the D-pad, and it affects the environment. So if there is, you can set things on fire, and if there's wood around, the wood will catch on fire. So there was this like wooden staircase that had guards on it, and you can use fire on it, and it would like light all the guards up. And so you're trying to take out like 100 enemies in this base, because once you get notified, you're screwed.
Sure.
And you're doing all these things, and then they said that there's other elements where like if you use Blizzard on areas of water, it'll freeze it over, and you can only imagine that that's going to have some like, oh fuck, Kevin.
Now you
Kevin
can't.
spilled coffee on me earlier.
No.
Like,
You're being like the most horrible boss right now. Just calm down.
No,
he
but-
was bringing you coffee and you flailed your hand into it.
And that's exactly what happened earlier today.
Yeah.
I
no,
was
that's
walking
not.
The kitchen, we were
Small
we
house.
were cramped,
Yeah.
And he like turned as I was turning, and we both. It hit his arm.
No,
spilled a
not
little
true.
coffee on his
I was
stupid
crouching
face.
down, not moving. Kevin comes in like a goddamn wrecking ball and pounces into me, and the fucking coffee goes over me when I just made it.
I came
A little quieter. Anyways, I'm excited that if you use Blizzard on water and stuff, that could be like environment puzzles, because that's something that Final Fantasy hasn't really had before. It's usually just a lot of the overworld stuff is just walk from point A to point B, talk to a bunch of people, and go from there. But like having to kind of figure some stuff out, I think that could be really cool. And my favorite thing about the environment shit was there was a big boss fight at the end of it where it's like you fight one of the Magitech things, and you're fighting it. You can pinpoint certain aspects of it and like kind of take them out. And at one point, you slice open the thing and gas spills all over the place.
Oh,
And then
nice.
you can use fire on the gas and it fucking lights the whole thing up. I'm like, hell yeah, that's fucking dope.
Okay, that's cool.
You're selling Mega Ran.
There's a lot of moments like that I'm like, oh, this is fucking cool.
That's neat.
And going back to the party thing, there was scenes where when the bar fills up but you're not near your party members, like the camera kind of shifts to that other party member. They do their attack and it goes back to you. But they're constantly kind of like talking shit to each other because they're bros.
They're bros.
And they're bros on a road trip. And I'm like, seeing all the initial stuff of them in the car, I was like, all right, like this is
See, for the initial stuff
weird.
is what started getting me. I'm like, all right, yeah, I can connect with a bunch of guys on a road trip,
But I mean,
not
so
a bunch
that's
of
it.
idiots
It's-
on a train.
It's weird and it's very not Final Fantasy. But then it got to the point now where I'm like, I like this. I'm really liking the story of what I'm hearing of what the plot of Final Fantasy 15 is, and seeing the gameplay, I'm like, I'm fucking sold. So like, I'm more excited now than I've been for Final Fantasy 15 in at least 6 years.
Wow.
How do you guys feel?
I mean, I'm not excited about it at all, but I'm interested in it. I've said before that I don't doubt that the game's gonna be good. I just don't understand how it's a Final Fantasy game, and I felt that way about obviously 13 and 14 and 11. I just don't understand 10. I just don't understand like why. At some point, the series has to mean something. There has to be some sort of convention. Otherwise, why or how is it a Final Fantasy game? It's the same thing we were learning with Dragon Quest X. It's like you can't just call something this, and it doesn't have anything to do with what we love about it. Because I consider myself a huge Final Fantasy fan too, but I consider myself a Final Fantasy fan of like 1 through 9, like Final Fantasy games. Like when they were Final Fantasy games. There's nothing wrong with 10. There's nothing wrong with 12 if you like those games. It's just like this is starting to lose its connection to like what Final Fantasy is tenuous at best, and it seems like 15 is like just a Final Fantasy game in name. Is that what we're gonna do from now on? We're just gonna reinvent everything about the game every time we release it now, and there's just nothing about it that has a connection to it. Just because you call something Magitech armor, it doesn't mean it's like Final Fantasy 6. So it's like
but I think that's the point, though. I think they're trying to reinvent it, and I think that it's not trying to reinvent the wheel every time. But I think they want this to be the thing that catches on, and this is what Final Fantasy is now.
I mean, it is now until they release the next one and the next one after that, and we'll see what those games are. It's just like, it reminds me, we were talking about Mega Man. It's like, well, when you make Mega Man, a 3D Mega Man, it's not Mega Man, 10, it's Mega Man Legends, or like, when you make a futuristic kind of more equipment-based, non-linear, well, Mega Man's not linear, but like finding equipment and going back and backtracking, it's Mega Man X, or Mega Man Zero, or Mega Man Battle Network, or like, they don't just call these games Mega Man 17 and Mega Man 21, but they're like totally different. And that's the one thing that bothers me, because I like the conventions of turn-based role-playing games, and even active time battle, but that was the roots of Final Fantasy. That's why I'm so excited about Dragon Quest 11, because it seems like they're hearing everyone loud and clear that like, well, Dragon Quest 10, some people like it, but it's not Dragon Quest. It's Dragon Quest Online. Why did you call it Dragon Quest 10?
Yeah.
I
think the difference though with Final Fantasy is that they're always, even if there is the similarities, they're all different games. You know what I mean? And that's always kind of been the thing with that franchise. And like, even though like whether it's turn-based, but like the active time battle or the like whatever was in Final Fantasy 10, like those are different things.
Sure, I think
this is very different, but
yeah, I just think that there were more easily, like there's the line from Final Fantasy 1 to 3 to 5 with classes, and then all games have classes, but like classes you can change. In Final Fantasy 4, it was a more linear narrative, and you had classes, but you couldn't change them, and characters came and go. Like you didn't really have a chance to customize. In 6, you didn't really get to customize. Like Locke was always a thief, and Terra was a mage, but like you could remove them and bring them into your party and all that kind of stuff. And then there's just there are subtle differences, but they're recognizable as Final Fantasy games. And I do think that they've like really started to lose the plot in terms of what Final Fantasy is, and that's in my mind, and that's the one thing that's disappointing me about it. That said, Final Fantasy 15 looks fine. Like I think it's probably going to be a good game. I'm not going to go on a limb and say it's going to be bad, because I don't think that's going to be true.
Yeah.
I just don't know that it's going to be for me. But I've also realized that they're not really making role playing games for me anymore. That's why I'm excited.
I think
about
Bravely Default is kind of there.
Yeah, Bravely
to
Default
that.
for sure.
That is the old Final Fantasy, and they're just going that, but they're using the Final Fantasy name because it's bigger, and like they want that, I think, to mean something for generations to come. And I think that if they were to keep doing what they used to do, that just doesn't resonate with the mainstream audience the same way something game like
it doesn't
this
mean
could.
that they have to use 16-bit sprites or 32-bit polygonal nonsense like they did in Final Fantasy 7, for instance. That looked great at the time, but that's not it at all. It's just like there's just certain conventions, like there's just not many games that speak to me in that genre anymore, like with the exception of Cosmic Star Heroine looks awesome, which is basically like going to be a new Phantasy Star game, and Rainbow Moon and Rainbow Skies. Like these kinds of games like speak to me a little bit more, because I don't necessarily, I like characters and storytelling in these games, of course, but I also play for like the mechanics and the predictability of the mechanics. And Final Fantasy to me is not an action RPG. It doesn't mean that there's nothing wrong with being an action RPG. We love Kingdoms of Amalur, we love these kinds of more action RPGs, but I don't know. That's I'll be interested. I'm interested to see like what it is.
Yeah, and a couple months ago, the director Tabata said that Last of Us was an inspiration for him, and like for the direction of the game in terms of how they want to marry the story and the gameplay, and kind of have it progress in a very non-forced way, where it's not every 5 seconds a cutscene or whatever, and it's more just during the gameplay you get the story and get the character development, and even the little bits of gameplay they showed, like you saw that with just how it all progressed from them sneaking into that building to shit hitting the fan and like the boss fights and then the banter between the characters. I was like, man, this looks cool. Like this could be really, really, really cool. And like him talking about Last of Us in that way, I think is really awesome that, Japan's looking at Western games and like taking inspiration from the right ones.
They have to, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. Is I think Western games started eating Japan's lunch quite a while ago, and now they're trying to play catch up.
Sign of the times.
What do you feel about Final Fantasy 15, Megaran?
Well, you know what? I remember seeing the trailer a long time ago, and I was talking to my buddy K Murdoch, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't know," and he's a huge Final Fantasy fan, and it was kind of the same thing. We had opposite reactions to it. He's like, "I don't know." I was like, "Wait, this looks cool," and I've been a fan from I guess 1 to 9, a little bit of 10, and but yeah, I thought the first trailer looked good. I haven't seen any of the new stuff, so I'll check it out. If it's like Metal Gear, that's kind of my complaint about I guess current gen games is that they're pretty much all like Metal Gear at this point. Like I think that's the style of good game. I mean, and not to say that that's a bad thing, but like that's how you make a good game. Like that's kind of what I mean, I know Uncharted will be amazing, but it's the same style of game that we've been playing probably since the beginning of this generation. So but yeah, I'll play it for sure because I haven't played a Final Fantasy game in so long. And and I liked what I saw way back when. So I do want to look at the new stuff, and I'm going to give it a try because I'm hoping it'll be good.
That's great. And Colin, just so you know, they hinted that another demo's coming.
Great.
How does that make you feel?
Well, I'll be interested. I mean, the other demo bothered me just in the sense like this is such a waste of time.
They kept
Yeah,
updating
they kept
it, making
updating. I'm like,
changes.
what the hell are you guys doing? But this will be more telling now because I do think that they're probably going to end up really hitting this year, and so
the trailer, the gameplay thing did end with coming 2016.
Yeah, I don't think they would say that at this point if they weren't sure. It's the same thing with The Last Guardian. Like you just don't say things like that at this point with a game that's so tortured. So yeah, I'll be interested in seeing what it's all about. I'm gonna play it. I'll see how long I play it and how much I want to get into it. My mind's just in a different place right now with games. Like in terms of what I'm looking for, I'm looking for some more experimental or different types of games, some more narrative-based games. And it's not to say this is not going to have a story. It's just I doubt that the story is going to be really worth anything compared to a lot of the stories being told in other games. So, because I do think that like there's an inverse relationship, I think, in my mind in Final Fantasy, having played all of them, and not 1 through 9 deeply, 10 until the laughing scene, I couldn't take it anymore, and then 12 I beat, 13 I almost beat. And then that was basically it. And I do feel like there's an inverse relationship between the storytelling and the changing gameplay also alters the importance or the resonance of the story, which I think started sometime maybe even with 8. Because 8 had such a different gameplay system.
Yeah.
I mean, 7's materia was different, but it was really just a spin on espers from 6. But 8 with drawing and stuff like that, and really having to rely on monsters to like get your skills and all that was really fucking weird. And that was when the series started to dive a little bit, and then 9 brought it back up a little bit, and then so it seems like they're emphasizing gameplay, which is good because gameplay is king, but the storytelling I don't expect to be quite there anymore. We'll see.
Final topic of the day, as always, brought to you by the Kind of Funny forums. Go to kindoffunny.com/gamescast topic to leave your topic for us to read in the show, just like Boiled Frog did. He says, we all love video games. We always talk about our favorite games, why we should play this game or that game, and why we're excited about this game's release, whatever. My question is, what do you hate about video games? Is it multiplayer-only games? Games without multiplayer, open world games, linear games, bad graphics, great graphics, bad gameplay, great gameplay.
I hate great gameplay.
No story, bad
When I'm
story.
sloppy, I want to clip through the floor.
Great story, but lore is too deep. Episodic games.
All right, we
could
get
be
it. We get it.
anything.
What don't you like about
There's a couple good things there, though. Like, I think
There's
the
some
great
good
story,
stuff.
but the lore being too deep is a daunting thing that I wouldn't necessarily think about. But getting into a game, like for someone that hasn't played a Final Fantasy and looking at Final Fantasy 15 and not knowing like what you need to know and not, that could be pretty
Of course.
intimidating.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you see games like The Witcher when it came out, right? It started downplaying its 3, right? It was Witcher Wild Hunt, even though they had the 3 behind it, but they were pushing away from that so that new people would be like, oh, cool.
I can
What's
jump in and
this?
play this. Yeah.
Yep.
Same thing with like Infamous Second Son, right? Let's start dropping numbers. Let's start things new, start things fresh, get people in there.
Tutorials, man.
You
Like,
hate tutorials?
like I really do. I hate, it's less so the tutorial. Like I can deal with it. I understand. Like that's just how games need to be these days. It needs to have that like introduction thing that you just keep hitting A or X to skip through. But I hate it when it's tutorial sections. Twilight Princess and Kingdom Hearts 2. My God, why are the first 3 to 5 hours of these games like, here's how you play this game, and here's this whole section that's totally different than the rest of it. It's like, stop. Like, I get it. I want to just get going,
That
I'm
could be
trying to
annoying.
run through. I installed a whole bunch of stuff on my PS4 recently. Was playing one of them recently. They had a really bad tutorial section where it was one of those things where it's like, if you would just let me go and play the game, I'd figure it all on my
could
own.
figure
But
it
it was
out.
like one of those like, hold up. Now you're gonna be times you have to hold R1 and hit. They're like, what the fuck? Just let me go. You know what I mean? I'll be fine. But like, it was like making you go every time and try it, and then go to the next part and try it, and then go to the next part.
Yeah,
and
the games that have tutorials that you don't even know you're playing the tutorial are the best, or the most clever.
Yeah.
And back in the day, talking about Mario Stage 1 and all those kinds of things, the idea of that game telling you exactly how to play. Not that game's complicated compared to games today. It's not. No, I think that emphasis to me. I was talking about this on our Reddit AMA that we did. Where someone asked me, like, is resolution or frame rate more important? And I'm like, well, frame rate's probably way more important because it actually is gameplay related. But some of the gaming community's overemphasis on technical specs is infuriating to me. If a game's running at 30 frames a second, it's garbage. If it's running in 900p or 720, it's garbage. It's like, who gives a shit? Like, is the game good? Is the game fun? You know? I still say River Raid is like one of my favorite games of all time on Atari 2600. That game is like one of the most basic things ever, but it's fun. Who cares what it looks like? It's I could make that fucking game probably now if you just gave me like a little bit of a tutorial on how to code and stuff like that. It's not complicated. It's just fun. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean that like things don't have to look like Witcher 3 Wild Hunt to be fun. In fact, Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is fun, but it's also in my mind way too dense and way too big. You know, like, and so like I think that we look at things as like technical specs, scope, gameplay length, all these kinds of things, and I'm like, no, this doesn't make a game good. Just because you can play it for 50 hours doesn't mean you want to play it for 50 hours or mean you should play it for 50 hours. Is a tighter 2-hour experience like Journey more resonant than the 50 hours it takes to get to the good part of Final Fantasy 13? You know, so I think that like we as a gaming community rely generally on these weird things. It's not to say, it's like we were talking about, well, I don't know, maybe it was on the show last week, like what about PlayStation 4 makes a game better other than its technical specs? Nothing. There's nothing that PlayStation 4 is doing that PlayStation 3 couldn't do in terms of like games. You know, it's just like we have to just slow our roll a little bit and realize like maybe like let's just look at games at a more mechanical standpoint, a more storytelling or procedural standpoint in terms of like what we're getting out of them, as opposed to like just pushing the specs and pushing the technical limits of these machines, as if that makes games better. Inherently, it doesn't.
I hate unskippable cutscenes
Why would you want to skip the cutscenes?
because if it's before a boss fight,
I know.
and I freaking die 3
For
times.
me, it's when what drives me crazy with unskippable cutscenes is when it crashes or something happens or there's no save point on the other side and you come back and then you have to sit through.
Well,
the
that's what I'm
same thing.
saying. Like when you lose the boss fight, you have to keep going
Yeah.
back. And in Kingdom Hearts, like freaking Riku, the third fight with him, you had to freaking. It was so hard, and then I kept dying. It's like a 5-minute cutscene before, and it's like that's so annoying. Another thing about cutscenes is I hate when games don't have a subtitle option. I like having subtitles because I like knowing exactly what people are saying.
Yeah.
And it's so stupid to me when it's just not an option.
Yeah.
Also, games that don't let you button map are annoying. Not that I remap buttons often, but there are times when you want to, and like I just don't understand this orthodoxy towards like this is the way you play it. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, why can't I play it the way I want to play it? It's a similar mantra to like being able to skip cutscenes. It's like, well, why do you want to skip them? And it's like none of your fucking business. I'm playing the game. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like,
It's my game now. I'm big on unskippables as a huge thing, but long loading times. But I guess you can't do anything about that. But I really don't feel that in 2016 that should be an issue, and it is way too much for me. Trying to play WWE 2K16, and it's like, do you want to change your guy's eyebrows?
Yeah, I know. Right?
Now loading 5 minutes. You know, so.
Yeah, those are the worst. The loads that have like not something that's buried on the other side of a load screen, even. But yeah, for WWE,
Like a simple,
that happens all the time.
creation thing. It's just like, oh boy.
Yeah.
I like, I don't know. I was just thinking of something when you were talking. Oh, just like the forcing multiplayer. I'm not a big fan of that. I remember Titanfall when that came out and how I was really excited about it. And, I don't have a whole lot of friends or that I want to play with sometimes. I just want to play by myself once in a while. And, I think having to play with someone is a little bit annoying, So, yeah, that's a big one for me.
Maya Luke says, hey guys, I'm a new user in the Kind of Funny forums because my friends and girlfriend told me you guys have a forum and a question thread, so I made an account just to join the community and support your Patreon page.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So my question is, do you believe Atlas might push back Persona 5 this year because of Final Fantasy 15?
No.
no.
Yeah, no. definitely
Atlas
not.
ain't scared. If anybody, it seemed like Square was scared when they put out that survey or whatever. Yeah.
I don't think they have anything to be scared of. That game will drop. Maybe it doesn't come out here. I just can't imagine that. It'll come out in Japan though.
It'll come out.
For sure. Yeah, my theory, and it might be crazy, is that Persona will probably outsell Final Fantasy, at least in Japan. I don't know that it will happen here necessarily, but
it won't.
But Persona's still good for a few million in the West. Maybe not, but Persona making that kind of cosmic jump, that quantum leap, as it were, from 3 to 4 to 5, where it's really relevant now.
Yeah.
Because Persona was floating around localized in North American PS1s back in the day. No one gave a fuck about that game. So it's like it's interesting seeing. You know how far that's come. I think that game's good for many sales, regardless of when it comes out.
Final Fantasy and it are like the inverse of each other's situations, right? Where I think Persona is like everyone's like, that's gonna be amazing, don't worry about it. And Final Fantasy has so much to prove.
Yeah, but it's still gonna sell. That's the thing.
Oh yeah, it'll sell. Yeah.
Azrael26 says, "Hey guys, what do you think Amy Hennig's Star Wars game will be?
Narrative driven,
third
linear.
person. It'll be like Uncharted in the Star Wars universe, which I can't wait for.
Yeah, that is excellent. The Almighty Foofy.
That's a good
Great name.
Nice.
Rumors are saying that Namco is going to be launching the NX with Smash Bros. My question is, do you think this will be a Game of the Year port of Smash 4 with all the DLC included, a brand new Smash, or a release of Smash 4 with all the DLC plus maybe 1 or 2 new exclusive characters in the NX version? And is it smart for Nintendo to jump right out with Smash Bros? Yes, it's smart. I think it will be a Game of the Year thing.
Do you think they toss in a bonus character or two?
I think that they will.
Yeah.
I think that they have to. And I'm very excited that this is a thing because I want this game to just keep going. They've been doing so great.
They
so
put
far.
so much into
the
it.
DLC's coming out today.
Yeah,
very excited to play with some Bayonetta.
Yeah.
But I think that's it has to happen. It's one of those things that I'm like, it's too good to be true. Nintendo wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But we've seen so much rumors now that point towards it that I think it is undeniably happening. I don't think they'll call it the Game of the Year edition, but I do think it'll be like
the NX. It'll be Smash Bros.
NX. Yeah. But it is just the Wii U game.
Do you think this will rectify the situation and put dry bones in it?
Probably not.
And do you think it'll be a Mario Golf launch at NX?
Entirely not.
This is a lot of bullshit.
Yeah, no, those things
You're
will
feeding
not.
me a lot of bullshit about the NX
happen.
right now.
Let's see. You know what? We're just gonna call it there.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Everybody go buy Mario Golf World Tour on your 3DS. It's amazing. If you have the means, go get Toadstool Tour as well. Mario Golf is endorsed by us.
Mega Ran, thank you so much for being here.
Oh man, thank you guys for having me.
Where can people find you, all of your stuff?
Oh man, well, Mega Ran Music is pretty simple. It's got all my music on there right now. Actually, right now I'm running a really awesome bundle with Groupies, which is like my entire discography for like $1. So if you go to like groupies.com with 2 E's, no I in it, /mega. And there's the Team Mega Bundle with proceeds going to the American Heart Association.
Oh.
With, if you pay $1, you get like 4 albums. You pay $3, you get like 6 albums. I don't know, something like that. But it's a really good deal. It just started today. So you can grab everything for a really good price and help out a great cause. You can find me on Twitter at Megaran. It looks like Meg Ryan, but it's not. And yeah, Megaran.com is my home site. And we just launched a label, which is at randombeats.io. So yeah, there you go.
There you go. Thank you guys.
Patreon.
Thank you.
Yeah, what's your Patreon?
And I'm on Patreon, Patreon/Bits and Rhymes, or just bitsandrhymes.com. Myself and K Murdoch, we do video game inspired tracks every month just for you. We just released one today, which is Sonic the Hedgehog. We were just talking about that. Sonic 1 Starlight Zone track. So awesome. Go on there and grab that.
I really liked your Game of the Year one, or your year wrap up, I should say.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I support
And
it.
definitely check out Black Materia.
Yeah.
Amazing album. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Until next time.
Thanks for having me.
Peace.